All right. Gentlemen, today I have a little bit more of a relaxed, laid-back video for you guys. So go ahead and grab your mags, grab your ammo cans, maybe load a few mags or enjoy a drink. I don't know, whatever you choose to do. Today we are going to be talking about my top 3 go-to shit hits the fan rifles, guns. No pistols in this, but yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's get into it. In no particular order, although I would say this is probably my number 1, so I guess it is in a particular order. This right here is my Knights Armament SR15 11.5 CQB. Now you guys have seen this gun on the channel several times, but I don't know if I've given it a dedicated spotlight of its own. I have changed a couple things since the probably last time you guys have seen it, one of which being I swapped the B5 system's grip around. I changed the angle of it. So previously I had this thing kind of canted like this, and I went ahead and switched it back the other way. I actually had to swap it with a new grip so that I could cut it with the appropriate angle. But yeah, so we'll do a quick build breakdown on these guns. I'll tell you, you know, where I got them, how long I've had them, what my experience has been, and why they are my go-to guns. So you're going to see a lot of similarities between these. I like B5 systems, their pistol grips, their stocks. I love rail scales. I like mod light, and every one of these guns has a suppressor on it. I usually either run EOTech or aim point, not the T2. Not a big fan of that optic, but I do love the Acro P2 as well as actually now the C2. I just got one of those and I'm pretty stoked about that. So let's go ahead and get into this thing. So like I said, Knights Armament. Now I went ahead and bought the upper receiver. I didn't opt for the entire gun. As many of you know, Knights Armament is extremely expensive, and I didn't necessarily see the value in the lower receiver other than from a collectability standpoint. So this lower receiver on here is actually from my first AR-15 that I ever bought, which was a Christensen Arms CA556. I bought it at a Shields in Colorado, probably about 5 years ago now, I would say. Not a bad gun. I did end up selling the upper receiver because I just wasn't a big fan of it. I suppose it has its purpose, but I was having a ton of issues with it. On top of just the build quality, I wasn't necessarily a big fan of personally, at least what I look for in an AR. And what I look for in these guns primarily is reliability and durability. So I went ahead and splurged on the Knights Armament upper receiver, kept the Christensen Arms lower receiver. We got a Geissele SDE trigger in it. Geissele, I think it's their Posi Snap safety selector. EOTech, just the regular old 3-0, I believe it is. Whichever one is the dot and donut, your typical just EOTech with the night vision compatibility there. Now what I went and did was I changed the suppressor. Previously I had on here the Radical Defense LS5. Big fan of that suppressor. I absolutely love it. But since starting this YouTube channel, I have bumped up my the frequency of my shooting by quite a bit. So I shoot very often. I would say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 600 rounds or so a week, I would say. And with that, obviously the Radical is extremely quiet, but what it is not is the best at gas. It is a reduced back pressure suppressor. However, it is not the best. I never really had any major issues with it as far as getting gassed out, except under certain circumstances. So if I go in the woods and shoot where the air is stagnant, then I would definitely get a little bit of gas to the face. I was actually just recently filming and that happened. And so as you guys know, I did a video on the Cat WB here, and I was very blown away with how well it performed in sound suppression. Flash isn't as much of a big deal to me personally, But the best thing that it did was the gas. So it did amazing on the back pressure testing. And so I decided that because I wear ear pro when I shoot all the time, I'm not so much worried about the maximum suppression. I'm more or less worried about getting gassed out and breathing in those toxic fumes. So I went ahead and actually bought myself a Cat WB. And then I changed out the Radian Raptor SD for a gas buster charging handle from PRI. I like these PRI gas busting charging handles. They seem to do a pretty darn good job. I haven't tested them side by side, but I noticed a little bit of a difference there as far as back pressure when I installed them. I have them on a couple other guns, none of which are here, but yeah, they did pretty good. As far as iron sights here, by the way, I'm just running the included Knights Armament front and rear flip-up iron sights. We have a mod button on here. Yeah, this is my go-to AR-15, my go-to rifle. I've had it for, let's see, so the upper I've had for probably about 4 years. I have no idea how many rounds through it. If I had to guess, I would say at least over 10,000 rounds through this thing by now. And I have had zero malfunctions that were the gun's fault. I've had magazines give out, some of my Daniel defenses crapped out on me, and while I was shooting this thing, and then some ammo related problems, but I've never ever had a malfunction in this thing. I run it dirty, I run it dry, I run it lubed. Right now it's cleaned and lubricated, but it just absolutely eats up everything. And even still to this day, I just zeroed it with the new can. It's still a probably, I don't know, from the tripod I was shooting it from, it's probably a 3 MOA gun, 3.5 out of a 5-round group from a tripod as well. So that's not even bag shooting. Good enough for me. This thing is awesome. Say what you want about Knights Armament, but they have been very good to me. And if you have the money and you are in the market, and as they say on the box, when your life is on the line, I don't see that you could go wrong with something like a Knights. Just try not to get scalped and see if you can get a good deal on it, and you'll be good to go. I did forget to mention the Arisaka flashlight mount, as well as the Centurion bolt carrier that I have in here. This is the sand cutter, or your poor boy's sand cutter. It actually does a phenomenal job at keeping this thing running smoothly, even while it's dry or gunked up. Those sand cuts in that bolt carrier do a phenomenal job. So that's my go-to AR-15 rifle. Moving on, we have my H&K SP5. Now you guys have seen this. I've done a dedicated video on this, as well as the Lee Sporting Trigger Group. I mean, what a phenomenal rifle. Or yeah, so it is a short barrel rifle. These are all SBR'd or SBS. What a phenomenal gun. Again, reliability. So I have had 0 malfunctions with this thing. It's just been an absolute unit. I have probably, let's see, I bought it right around the 4-year mark or so ago. I'm sitting somewhere again, probably around the 10,000 round mark with this thing. Some of it was actually with a super safety that I tried out for a little bit. That was an absolute blast. Didn't last very long, but it was an absolute blast. So I've just been beating the crap out of this thing. I think I've cleaned it maybe 3 times. Like, I really don't clean this thing hardly ever. I keep it somewhat lubricated, but I just beat the heck out of it, and it takes every bit of it. So we got B&T stock, Gibbous Outfitters backplate. Big fan of this. It is kind of a pain in the ass to get on there, but once it is on there, it is quite solid. The Lee Sporting LS5 trigger group. I went ahead and just set everything up and let Austin do his work. So with Lee Sporting, I went ahead and selected everything. Geisley trigger, Radian 45 degree safety selector, ambi, and then the LS5 trigger group. So he went ahead and did everything all on his own and sent it to me as a drop-in unit. And without this trigger group, I can tell you that hands down, this gun would probably not be in my top 3 because of how amazing this trigger is and how shootable this gun is with this change. It has earned its spot. Without it, I really don't think it would be in there. I think I would probably have like my Knight's SR30 in there, or potentially a pistol of some sort. But this hands down has completely changed this gun. Again, we have rail scales. Again, we have B5, Modlite Arasaka. I have here my Modlite pressure switch mounted up on the bottom. Silencer Co. Omega 9K. Really, really like this suppressor. For what I do with it, it's small, it's compact, but it packs an absolute punch in the sound suppression department. So it does a phenomenal job. So the similarities with all these guns, and another reason why I chose all of these, let's say theoretically if shit hits the fan, all of these calibers that I have here would probably likely be the easiest to find in a pinch. So we have 9mm, 5.56, and 12 gauge. So there's a little spoiler for you. So they're easy to find. So if I needed to grab ammo, which I don't necessarily plan on having to do, I could. So I like having the option of that. Yeah, this thing is awesome. We have the Aimpoint Acro P2 on there, BNT mount, ADM mount for the Acro. Really, really solid mount. Nice quick detach on there. Really, really solid optic rail as well. Never had any problems with it. It maintains 0. I can hit steel out at 160 yards, no problem. Just a fantastic gun. A little bit of insight or a suggestion, if you will. If you are in the market for an MP5, SP5, SP5K, or anything that was originally HK made, and you are considering the clones, if it were up to me, and just as a suggestion, I would say you should probably hold off and get the legitimate one. I understand they're expensive. See if you can snag one used on Gunbroker or something like that if you're in a pinch. If you don't care about reliability, then sure, go for it. If it's just going to be a range toy, then go for it. Get the clone, spend what you can. But if you have the money and if you can save for a little bit longer, I would always suggest that you get the legitimate HK. I'm on all of the subreddits, the forums, and all that stuff, and quite often do I see posts about malfunctions and issues, not major, but malfunctions and issues with a lot of the other clones. You don't very often see problems with the legitimate HK parts or guns, the SP5 and the SP5K specifically. I know that's a big ask. I know they're expensive. I bought it myself. I understand, but if reliability is what you are after or it is a priority to you, I would say definitely go with the legitimate HK. Next, we have here my Genesis Gen 12 PDS. Now, this gun I don't have completely set up. What I mean by that is I'm probably going to add a light, a pressure switch, maybe some backup iron sights, another riser, something of that sort. I may change the stock out in the near future. My other rifles that I've already covered, those are done, or so I think. This one I haven't had for very long. However, I have absolutely beat the snot out of this thing, and other than the self-induced malfunctions, which I'll get into in a sec, it has been 100% reliable. I think the first day I bought it, we shot 600 rounds through it, just burning it down in a very short time span too. And this thing ate it all. Every bit of ammo that I put through it, everything that I did to it, it just eats. So, for those of you that don't know, the Genesis Gen 12 PDS is a 5.5-inch barrel magazine-fed 12-gauge shotgun, semi-automatic, of course. It is in the PDS version sold with a suppressor. So this is a monocore design suppressor, meaning there's essentially like a fluted barrel on the inside of the suppressor. It is not very quiet, I will just say right now, but it does do a fantastic job at taking the initial bite out of the shock wave and the pressure wave that comes out of a 5.5-inch barrel 12 gauge. On here, I have now all of this as it sits, with the exception of the GBRS riser that I don't have on here, came as a package from Genesis. I bought it at TriggerCon 2024, so that was probably 3 months ago. And yeah, it's just been an absolute unit. This is the tanadized version, so I did spend a little bit more money on it. And some of you might be wondering, well, you haven't had that for very long, so how could you say that's the top 3? Just because of how much I beat this thing up, and it has taken every bit of it, and how much of a blast it is to shoot. That's what earned it its spot. Obviously, as time goes on, if I have issues with it or something happens, we'll make those changes. But now to get into the self-induced malfunctions. Okay, so I bought a Castle Group riser for this thing. I didn't really like the GBRS riser for it, so I went ahead and got the Castle Group. I put it on here and I just tightened it down nice and snug. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to use it, so I didn't Loctite it yet. And during my video that I shot with it, I actually sheared off one of the riser mount screws, just completely broke off while I was shooting, not while I was tightening it down, while I was shooting it. So then I had to direct mount the EOTech. I could have gone back to the GBRS, but I didn't. I direct mounted it. Now I had this EOTech sitting about 2 slots forward, right here above the ejection port. For whatever reason, with only one type of ammo, not all of them, or I probably would have thought about it, only one type of ammo, it caused a malfunction, a failure to eject. For some reason, where the EOTech was interfering with the ejection of the Hornady Critical Defense buckshot. I'm assuming something to do with the velocity of that ammo that kicked that shell out fast enough to where it was coming out differently than everything else. I'm not really sure, to be honest. One of you guys actually commented on the video and gave me the suggestion to move the optic back and that it fixed the problem for you. Lo and behold, I did it and it fixed the problem for me. So that is what I mean by self-induced malfunction. As soon as I move this thing 2 slots back, it's back to running like an absolute champ. I didn't clean it. I still haven't even really cleaned it at all. Haven't cleaned the suppressor yet. I'm sitting at probably about 1,000 rounds through this thing with no problems other than that. And that to me has spoken well enough to where it earned its spot in my top 3. Super compact. It's rugged as hell. I don't think that I would have any problem. Like if this thing ran out of ammo, I could probably knock somebody out just with the rear butt plate and with how solid this thing is. So really that's all I got for you guys today. Oh, the EOTech I forgot to mention is the EOTech EXPS 3-1, which is the single dot reticle. Big fan of EOTechs, and the single dot reticle is no exception. It's a phenomenal red dot. And yeah. So that's all I got for you guys today. Now, for some of you, you may be wondering if you've never seen me before or if you just don't know. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is with recent holidays, if you will, Marine Corps birthday and Veterans Day and stuff like that. I made a post and somebody thought it was stolen valor. So for those of you who are wondering what my credibility is and why you should be listening to me as far as what my top 3 guns are, well, number one, you shouldn't. I'm just your average shooter, your average consumer, and that's what I try to bring to the table when it comes to YouTube content. None of these guns were sent to me. None of the parts on these guns were a sponsored thing. I don't yet have any coupon codes for you guys, but I will have them in the near future, and those coupon codes are going to be with companies that I personally shop with myself. I may have a list of other affiliate links to companies that I haven't necessarily shot with or purchased from, just if you guys want to use them. But I will always disclose that to you. I have not purchased here, so I don't know what it's like. But what I will say is if you use any of my future affiliate links, by the way, I do get paid on those. If you purchase something, I will get a percentage of the sales that I bring to that company. But let's say if you purchase something from one of my affiliate links or a company that I am in cahoots with, and you have a bad experience or the product breaks or something goes wrong, what I will do is if you reach out to me, I'll likely set up a Patreon, super cheap subscription. If you reach out to me on there or Instagram or anywhere and show me that you bought something from a company that I am affiliated with and you have a problem, I will reach out on your behalf. If they're not responsive, if they're not answering, I will reach out on your behalf to just vouch for you. And as a testament to the products that I endorse and the companies that I work with and me standing behind my word when I endorse things. So, but anyways, got completely off track there. So somebody had said that I was stolen valor. So that is in fact not the truth. I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years. I did 4 on active and 4 as a reservist. I was not deployed to a combat zone. I'm not an operator. I don't have a super cool rap sheet. For those of you who are wondering, I was a motor T operator and also a martial arts instructor. Now, to someone who doesn't know what that is, that probably sounds really cool, when in all actuality, I just got to kick Lance Corporals around whenever I wanted to. So it wasn't nearly as cool as you might think it is. Obviously, in the Marine Corps, you shoot a little bit and you get a tiny bit of experience with firearms, but not much to speak of. Before that, I hunted a little bit here and there. I played airsoft. No shame in that. But other than that, my experience with firearms has primarily been on the civilian side. So you can take my advice for what it's worth. You can take my opinion for what it is worth. I am by no means the gospel, and so take it all with a grain of salt. Everything is, at the end of the day, just my opinion for what it is worth. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've loaded up all or at least some of the magazines that you intended on loading up today. And I appreciate you for being here and watching. The next few videos, this was more of a laid back one today. The next few videos should be on some pretty cool stuff. I have my Marlin 4570 that I haven't done a video on yet, and some other cool stuff. We got to finish up our series on suppressors, on K-cans for the 5.56, so that will be coming in the near future. So we'll catch you guys on that one. It's cold, man.